What is going on, everybody? It is episode 313 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett. I'm here with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, Crisis Actors. It's Mary. I am feeling a little more human today compared to yesterday. The Mark Wahlberg 40-day challenge is treating me better, feeling better, higher energy. And we've got Hannah Claire in the studio.
Hi, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for timcast.com. Brett, I have a present for you.
You do?
Yeah,
Whoa.
you want to open it?
Okay.
I didn't even see this. What the heck?
Yeah, I ran out of the room to get it.
Okay.
I just, in my travels, thought of you, and I thought
Is
this
this a Subway? Is this a Subway sandwich?
Yes. In fact,
this
I
is-
got you a Subway sandwich
Looks about
4 days
right.
ago.
Oh. What is this? Wait, I can't see.
It's
Oh,
patron
it's Tom Cruise.
Because I've never met anyone who loves Tom Cruise like Brett loves Tom Cruise.
But what is Tom Cruise the patron saint of?
Stunts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
And
the
aggressively defending film content that you're protective of.
he's the patron saint of stunting, and I think right here,
And of short men, I think.
right,
Oh, it's visible. Yeah.
right here is perfect, guys. I now have a Tom Cruise patron saint of short men stunting to liven up the studio. That is perfect. Thank you so much. That's way better than a Subway sandwich.
One time, many, many months ago, I think it was back when we were still pre-recording, I compared Tom Cruise to cardboard, and Brett was very defensive of it. So I now permanently associate Tom Cruise as like your favorite actor. I don't even know if that's the case. But
It's not true per se, but I do appreciate the man's work, and that will also forever have me labeled as a Scientology apologist.
that's true. I also did
yeah.
that.
I did have somebody, like, I don't remember if it was on Twitter or Instagram, where basically, like, I made some comment about Tom Cruise, and they're like, yeah, but Scientology. I'm like, not my cult, not my business. like,
Good adaptation of
That's
that
true.
quote.
Yeah.
like it's not my fault if you fall in the cult. You were mentioning the other day, Mary, you're like, libertarianism isn't really the empathetic decision, right? You said it's not actually empathetic because it would be more empathetic to like help people that need help, right? And I was thinking about that. I'm like, I guess I'm not very like kind. I just want to be left alone.
Yeah.
Like,
but I understand the impulse. you
Yeah,
know?
like so now. Not my cult, but it's
You
it's a different
watch
cult.
Top Gun Maverick, you're actively supporting a cult.
Basically,
I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. So now that maybe what I can start doing is like asking him for like his opinion on things. If I could get good at
yeah.
miming,
You're
that-
making
or-
your devotion to Tom Cruise official now.
But wait, that's not miming. What is it? What is it?
Losing your sanity?
No. When you have the puppet and you do the
You're puppeteering?
puppeteering, right?
Oh,
like
oh.
and you imitate the voice and stuff, and you have to be
Yeah.
able to do it without moving your
You're
lips.
thinking of the word Muppets, I think.
Yes,
And
I
that's where
was
the M is
thinking of
coming in.
Muppets.
But
So-
you're gonna need a Tom Cruise finger puppet next.
I could. We could get that. Well,
The thing is, I just think now that I found this one thing, suddenly tons of Tom Cruise related merch will start appearing in front of me.
probably.
I'll always have a
the
gift for
related
you.
ads.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Like eventually,
I stumbled on that in the wild. In real life, Tom Cruise appeared before me.
I'm sure there are life-size cardboard cutouts of him. So if he is the equivalent of cardboard,
do
if
people?
it crosses my path in the wild, I'll get it for you.
know,
I'm not going to go out of my way. I'm not going to bring Amazon into this.
I used to live by a movie theater, and the goal was always to you'd want to go outside, and you'd want to get the life-size cardboard cutouts that they place in the theaters before they throw them away. But they started either returning them to the studios or cutting them up. So people couldn't go to the to discourage people from going to the garbage bins by my house to take them.
I wonder if the staff started just that.
Probably. I mean,
They're
would.
like, yes,
Yeah.
yes, corporate structure. We definitely cut them up and put them in
And
the
we
dumpster.
mailed them back, I swear, right? So we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. Ian Fleming's James Bond books have been bombarded with a bunch of loser sensitivity readers who are now making changes via the corporate policy of Ian Fleming's company he's since passed on to sanitize his books from big scary words that describe people. And it's awful. It's awful because it goes in context within context of the Roald Dahl discussion that people have been having lately. Also, 1984 getting a girl boss edition. There was who was
I
Dr.
didn't hear
Seuss.
about that.
Yeah, they're doing they're rewriting 1984 from a woman's perspective rather than a man.
What would George Orwell think of your lip gloss?
Exactly. That's exactly it. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Fran Drescher, the head of SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Screen Actors Guild, talking about how they need to bring an end to the vaccine mandates in her speech at the SAG Awards. They literally do nothing but go to award shows, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like every day they wake up and they like squeeze.
I mean, how do you fit any actual work in your schedule when you have to go to this many award shows?
Award shows and
That's what I'm
luncheons,
wondering.
right? Like
Well, luncheons, award shows, yeah.
all day. Like I think that's what they like. They're not in good shape for the movies.
And then
they're in good
you've got
shape
the
for
interviews.
the luncheons. Yeah.
I mean, how do you have time to film anything?
It's unbelievable. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the fact that Prince Harry, he believes so much in privacy that he's throwing the HIPAA laws to the books. He's throwing them out the window so that he can charge you $33.99 to watch him deal with his trauma.
It's such a specific amount for the pay-per-view. Like, how did they come up with that number?
It's I guess
They
with
just
tax.
they like blinded themselves through a dart.
Yeah.
And whatever it was, that's the cost.
I guess it'll round up with tax, right? The government's got to get their cut of the
Trauma
of his,
bonding with Prince Harry.
and nothing says the Worldwide Privacy Tour quite like telling everyone live about your trauma to a psychotherapist. So we're going to talk about that. And also, an adult film star said that Riley Reid said that her husband wouldn't kiss her when she would come home from work, and that made her feel bad about her job. And she eventually said that she's like, I felt like I didn't like my work, but realized that it was actually just because my ex didn't like my work, and that made me think I didn't like what I did for a living. So, that's shocking. Am I right? Is that shocking to anyone else that he wouldn't want to kiss her when she comes home from work?
Oh yeah, it's probably because he is sexist and doesn't think that women can be empowered by sex work.
Maybe it's because he's gay.
That could be it. Or sex positive.
That's small PP energy. That's what they call that in the business.
Sex positive feminism clearly hasn't done its job yet, so they got to get back to work out there. They'll figure it out. So we got that. We got a bunch of other stuff. If you guys are ready, we will just get right into it. Mary, are we ready?
We're ready.
Hannah Claire.
I'm ready.
Right. So to start, guys, we got some fun stuff to start with. First being that
Not fun.
No, this one's kind of fun. Ron DeSantis has brought an end to the Disney kingdom per se. He has removed their self-governing status, and hopefully without like liability to the taxpayers. But I just love the idea of like maybe Celebrity Deathmatch coming back and doing like Ron DeSantis versus Bob Iger in Celebrity Deathmatch, maybe.
Does he count as a celebrity if he's a politician?
I think so. I think like I think our society unfortunately now considers.
You either use
podcast clearly
use
considers
being
him a celebrity.
in Hollywood to get into politics,
Yeah.
or you use politics to get into Hollywood.
There might have been an episode of Celebrity Deathmatch that had like Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson. I don't remember correctly. Like I feel like I remember that, but I could be misremembering that. But they're not politicians, but they're Al Sharpton. It was either Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson made 2 appearances on the show Boston Legal. Like he's in the pilot episode.
John McCain is in Parks and Rec. I mean, politicians cross over. I don't think people who go into politics necessarily want to be celebrities in the Hollywood sense of it, but I definitely think they become, they're public figures. They're involved in all kinds of things.
like Obama, for instance.
Oh, he was always. It's really funny. Like as somebody who like well before I was like really politically aware, or even I don't really consider myself politically active now, but like well before anything that was going on, I was always like, why is he on so many late shows? Doesn't he have stuff to do?
Well, he
like,
was
isn't
like
he busy.
the cool president. He was like hip and fun, and Joe Biden.
It seems
wore
like
friendship
he used
bracelets.
the presidency as the vehicle to get to the book deal and the production deal and the late night
Bill
spots.
Clinton was already played the saxophone and didn't inhale back in
I think
the 90s.
Obama was like peak late night culture. I
Yeah.
feel like that was when everyone was like, but a late night show is amazing. And now they're all the same thing.
So it says it will end Disney's exemption from state regulatory reviews and approval. It will end Disney's secrecy by finally. I love the idea of secrecy. Like they have like a big layer underneath the castle.
do, though.
They really do. It says by ensuring transparency about what goes on in this area, it will ensure that they pay their fair share in taxes. I don't know how I feel about that language right there. The pay their fair share part. I guess towards a corporation, it's a little bit different than telling me to tell billionaires to pay their fair share. I'm no fan of Disney, but
If corporations paid their fair share, then there would be less pressure on individuals.
yeah.
I listened to this really interesting podcast called Blood and Business, and the 2 sister hosts who do it. It's all about like siblings who create these empires and do all kinds of things. So this season's about the Kennedy family, but they did a 3-episode arc on the Disney brothers. They have a really interesting story, but the creation of Disney World in Florida, was one of the Walt Disney had died, and basically on his deathbed was like, they knew this project was coming. He was like, this is what I want. It's extremely important to me. And his older brother survived him and carried it out. And one of the big things was making it its own town so that it would have complete control. It has its own mayor, its own city council that are ultimately all tied in with the Disney Corporation. So they are essentially, it's like Vatican City or Highland Park in Dallas. Like
it says something about America, doesn't it? Like that
America's Vatican.
America's Vatican is Disney. That's awful.
It's over
It is
now,
a huge deal. I mean, I think as Americans, we are used to Disney, and we know a lot of people like Disney adults, people who get excited about going, but especially in other countries, being able to take your family to Disney is an extreme show of wealth, right?
Yeah.
You mean like Disney Paris or like other
or even
locations?
Disney World, Florida. Like going to that is considered, because think about it, if you're flying from South America, that's a huge trip. Plus, then just bring your family. Disney has a huge cultural influence in the world. I think this is totally within its limits. It's something that a lot of people have called for over time, but I think that if you reside or operate a business within the Disney bubble, you're going to be happy about it.
Well, Zelensky's like, get them to pay their fair share. I need my money. We've got more,
He's got his song with Brad Paisley. He's doing fine.
Oh my gosh. So I was also thinking about this. Do you guys have anybody who works like a really dangerous job? Like a Deadliest Catch, or somebody who works on an oil rig. And I'm thinking about all these people.
I know one person that does.
Do you?
Like, yeah.
So imagine,
not Deadliest Catch, but
something similar. Like imagine they read this article about how Austin Butler was rushed to the ER after making a movie about being Elvis. Like being Elvis was too much.
Why was he rushed to the ER?
It's
he said that he felt like his body was shutting down the day after he finished filming Elvis.
And it says that it was symptoms contracted that simulated symptoms of appendicitis. I don't know what that means. How it
he
can
said he
simulate
woke up at
symptoms.
4 a.m. with excruciating pain and was rushed to the hospital.
Very scary.
I don't know. Stress can do crazy things to the human body, you know?
I'm not totally surprised that he would like be in bad shape after filming the movie. I mean, we know that it could be long hours and whatever else. I just think that like, why are we trying to drag out this story about Austin Butler? I know he's kind of interesting.
He's got great hair.
Maybe he's
People
just
were
like
mad that he said his friend said that he would be a good Elvis, and it turned out it was Vanessa Hudgens, who he had dated for 10 years, that's what I want to talk about. How can they date for 10 years and not get married? Like, what's going on with their generation?
She just wanted to prioritize going to Coachella.
I don't know. She's engaged now.
Well, also like saying friend, like kind of like undersells it, because she's like required to tell, like she's dating you. She's supposed to tell you that she'd be a great Elvis. If you're like, honey, would I be a great Elvis? She's like, yes, of course, honey.
It was
You'd be a
very
fantastic
specific
Elvis.
story about how they've been watching something and she had said out of the blue, and then years later he got this job, and like there's a recording of her telling the story, and then several recordings of him being like, my friend, non-specific.
I see.
It's the internet. You can't escape it.
But also,
I think he's
like,
getting lethal symptoms in reaction to having to talk like a normal person again and like get rid of the Elvis accent.
I just think this story, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I didn't see the movie. I heard it was good. I heard he did a good job. But he's not that interesting to keep him in. Like,
he's got fantastic hair.
Bid to stay relevant.
I like his hair.
He was on Disney, right?
Yeah.
Austin Butler. He was
He's got
on
very
some
high
Disney
hair.
show.
Yeah. I'm sure, I mean, maybe he'll be great at other stuff. I just feel like the Disney or the Elvis news cycle is over.
Yeah.
All right, guys. There's a couple more things. Oh God, that was almost cringe of the day. I almost scared them away. I'll give you guys if you guys didn't see the screen too carefully, I'll give you guys a warning before we put that on screen. But Shill Media blames Ant-Man and the 3 box office disaster on severe weather. The cope, Mary, we don't use that word lightly. The copium is real. Like blaming severe weather on the fact that the movie just isn't doing very well.
Yeah, but what area is this?
I know,
that
right?
they're
Like,
referring
I know
to?
Minnesota
Just
had some rough weather last week.
everywhere in the country had rough weather all at the same time.
Well, it was kind of like I was talking to someone the other day where like when because we had really nice weather here, we were in like the 70s last week, and somebody like a friend of mine made a post where it's like, we all know why it was like a climate change thing, like we know why this is, but let's just enjoy it anyways. It's supposed to be an allusion to like we know why we're having crazy weather in February. It's because of climate change. I'm like, well, I mean, I have other friends in Minnesota and they're not having 70-degree weather. So how is that the same
It's
thing?
because there are shadowy elites controlling the weather.
But I guess climate change could be a great way to get your like ESG funding back for Marvel movies. Like, look, we were going to make a lot of money on this one,
I feel
but
like the next thing they're gonna say is like people are really anxious more than ever, and that's why they didn't want to go to the movies. Like they'll just make up any excuse as to why their movies don't do well.
which is not true because we had a comment on one of our videos earlier where somebody said they went to the movies for the first time in 7 years to see Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, see, if you produce original great content,
Yep.
then you're
A
good.
lot of people already stopped going to the theaters before COVID.
Yes.
Also, to see Ant-Man, like, I'm
Of all
sorry,
Ant-Man 3.
no one is rushing to the theaters for Marvel movies. I mean, no, some people do, but they are not the general population. It's like you'll get a small rush.
They're
They
the ones
are.
wearing the N95s,
masks.
waiting for the post credit scene.
I mean, I
like
don't know. I
obedient
mean,
little
the
worms.
movie still made over
I don't
$100
even think
million.
there's enough of those. Like
I mean, I saw them on the opening night, but that was it.
but
I
it's
can't-
not
I
like
just-
the theater was packed with people like this. Like, I just think that the
think-
hype behind all of these movies is not what they think it is.
What do you think the next big trend will be movie-wise? If not Marvel, then what? If not superheroes, then what? What's the next big trend?
Oh.
We said Westerns, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to make the same type of comeback in the theaters.
I think we're gonna have a rom-com renaissance. I think
that
I
will
think
require
if
good
movies
writing.
After
were
Jennifer
thought-
Lopez?
Jennifer Lopez did 2 direct-to-streaming, and both were highly rated. I think that, like, what I remember thinking when they were producing rom-com after rom-com after rom-com was the early 2000s, and a lot of early 2000s stuff that was popular then is back now. And I think that after COVID and after, especially like during wartime, quote quote, because we're hanging out with Ukraine, people want something light. Like they don't want heavy.
Well, that's what they consider like This Is Us on TV.
Sure, and I
Yeah.
think that
Bathtub
superhero movies
television.
are too combative. Like I think that people don't want to see combat; they want to ignore it.
I think they like it because they like how simplistic they make it. They make it kids entertainment where you can like root for the good
none
guys.
of the combat has any
Yeah.
stakes. No one dies.
And
no one
those are
gets
the good-
hurt.
Still combat. I think that people want like the interpersonal romance that's like soft.
I don't know about like maybe on streaming that is, but like to make good rom-coms requires good writing, and I don't know if they have like the good writers aren't being used on
But,
rom-coms
like,
right now. They're not.
Not the way that you need good writing for like a true drama or a really good comedy, right? Like to be a solid rom-com writer, it's the bar is not the same place as other
What's
things.
your favorite rom-com?
I don't have one. I don't actually watch that many of them, but I think there is.
You're a
an industry
Hallmark
rom-
movie fan, aren't those
I'm
all
a
technically?
I'm a Christmas Hallmark movie fan.
Oh, it's a seasonal thing.
It's a seasonal
It's a
thing.
that makes sense.
Because it's just something that you do during the winter. Like you wrap
Okay.
presents and you watch a Hallmark movie. I love it. I think it's part of the culture that everyone should adopt. But I think that rom-coms are something that people want that we aren't getting. So I can't say it's going to happen, but that would be my prediction. I think the next couple big hits.
We
will
are
be
too
people going to
confused
see
about
light movies.
sexuality in this country for that to be true.
Actually, I agree.
Like
Yeah.
we are too like when you watch a movie now. This is one of those things that I like to point out when I'm like I would love to do watch parties so I can watch scenes where like the lady's like, is that your crush? Like you now take for granted the fact that somebody has to ask whether they're talking about the boy or the girl that they're pointing at.
See, I think the idea that we're too confused just feeds my theory because they like what was the biggest rom-com that they released recently? The one with the gay couple. It didn't do well, but that's like the rom-com they tried to launch. I think they identified that rom-coms are a desired market, and they were like, well,
That
we'll
one
just
with-
2023 it up over here.
The one with Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock made like $100 million, but that was like a rom-com adventure movie.
But
There's
it was
Magic
a rom-com.
Mike's
Lost
Last
World.
Dance or whatever.
No, that's already out. That's already
That
out.
came
that's,
out
that's like that's
recently.
going out on streaming.
Is
I
that a
think, yeah.
rom-com?
Not really.
I
don't
just
know.
think that
It's
will
just
be the
comedy.
thing that happens. I think that we'll see a renaissance in rom.
Okay,
Could be
well,
wrong, but this is my prediction.
like,
All
we'll have
right.
to figure like what'll end up happening is they'll have to like base it based on sexuality. Like, is it an LGBTQ rom-com? Because once they start to mix them, I don't think the writers have the ability to do both at the same
Well,
time.
there's also just so much confusion about gender roles
Yup.
now that making a rom-com that resonates with people subconsciously is almost impossible.
because they'll want to
But
make
it
it
means
girl
that they
boss.
have more fodder to work with, right? They can make a rom-com with the girl bosses now, which
Yeah.
they kind of did in the early 2000s. What was that one with Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds is in it, and he's like
The Last
Canadian?
Proposal.
Is that it? I don't know.
Or whatever.
But
There
she's like his
was-
assistant. She forces
Obviously,
him to marry
Miss Congeniality is kind of a girl boss.
They've been trying it with rom-coms for a while. I'm telling.
Made
I
in
could be totally
Manhattan.
wrong. This is just my personal fun prediction.
I
that
can't
rom-coms
wait.
Will have a renaissance.
I can't wait until we get like you know what they're gonna start doing? We're gonna start getting, you know how they make remakes and they race swap characters? We're gonna get sexuality swap rom-com remakes. So we're gonna get 10 Things I Hate About
No.
You, but gay. That's what's gonna happen. We're gonna get 10 Things I Hate About You, but it's gay. We're gonna get do you have a favorite rom-com, Mary?
Oh.
Whatever it is, it's gay. That's what it's
I
gonna
mean,
end up being.
Clueless is kind of rom-com-esque.
It's like a comedy,
Coming
with
of
like,
age
yeah,
comedy
it's
and romance.
Yeah. So that's what's going to happen. We're going to get like 10 Things I Hate About You, but what if they were both dudes? Or what if they were both chicks?
It's
That's
like
what's going to happen.
Clueless, but what if they're biological siblings? Like,
Yeah.
that's where we're headed right
Oh,
now.
I know, right? Like, so, you know, it is what it is. We'll see where it goes. Also, guys, I do want to share this photo with you. I am going to give you guys a bit of not a trigger warning, but like, you know, if you just ate lunch, if you have a weak stomach, if maybe you're sick right now, feel free to look away. This is what I would call cringe of the day. And it says, Sam Smith looks amazing for Perfect Magazine. To which I say, huh? Like,
Oh,
I love the
yikes.
ability to just lie. Like,
I don't understand the stylistic decisions here. Like in the first picture, it looks like they wrapped invisible like fish line or twine around his arms to accentuate his arm fat.
yep.
And they put him in these ill-fitting pants so that his stomach would be hanging out.
Allow me to take this off screen, guys. I'll take it off screen. Or unless you guys want to look at this.
Then a corset that's like pushing his back fat together to make kind of a butt crack look.
I took it off the screen, guys. Have no fear.
One where he's wearing like a denim tutu with like a part for the crotch. Hillary looks kind of like a toddler.
The chat's just like all like our view count is just dropping right now. They're like, how freaking dare you? Even with the warning, like
They can leave
know.
the audio going and just click to a different tab and
Yeah.
give them the all clear.
yeah.
And what is he eating in that fourth panel? He's like eating some kind of mysterious goop.
It looks like goop and like shredded cardboard.
Looks like like the thing that looks like some kind of exotic flower that you would put inside a cocktail.
It's so disgusting. Well, do you guys remember gack? The stretchy stuff. It looks like purple gack.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So
Jeez.
sorry, guys. I had to do that for cringe of the day. I know it's disgusting. That is what it is. I'm here to make everyone
I just think
equally
they
as
should get
miserable.
hit with like a fake news label, right? Like he looks amazing. That's objectively not true.
Well,
We're just being fully gaslit,
Gaslit.
now.
absolutely gaslit. All right, guys, we are going to move on. We are going to get started today. So this was a big story a couple of days ago, and we waited to cover it. But it says James Bond novels edited to remove racist content. This one, it bothered me the more I read into it because I hate the idea of sensitivity readers. If you guys don't know what a sensitivity reader is, basically these publishing houses, they hire like, you know, I don't like this word, but SJWs and snowflakes to
I'm not
read-
even so sure about that because I just read about this. Like I read an op-ed from someone who was hired on as a sensitivity reader in a group of other sensitivity readers, and they were like all recruited by a middle-aged white woman. I think she was in her 40s, and they were all professionals under 30, and they, after talking with each other, kind of realized that they were all recruited based on a background of specific traumas that they had experienced.
Oh my gosh.
And this is what it said. She said, in hindsight, it felt like manipulation of young impressionable employees who were being paid less than $20,000 a year to effectively reopen old wounds to safeguard the reputation of the publisher, like the publishing house. So
Well, yeah, they're
they're
damage
looking
control.
for these people to use their traumatic experiences to gauge the sensitivity of unpublished work and catch mistakes and like cultural missteps before they're out on the shelves.
Well, yeah, before those
But,
cultural
like, why
problems
are they
becoming
young? And how do they know these personal things about them? You know, like, is this something that they ask about in the middle of a job interview? Like, do you have substance abuse issues in your past? Like, something like that. How would they know? You know,
Yeah.
I
mean, your social media might
it was
tell you everything
really
you need to know about
gross.
that.
Or
And
they
she said
say-
she was originally hired just as an editorial assistant, but they later recruited these people for a different project.
Sensitivity readers should not be a job. This is anti-art, and really it's anti-permanence. Like, they want to take stuff that was designed, you know, art is supposed to inspire and create through interpretations through the ages, meaning that it may become more offensive as time goes on. But you're supposed to base a project's cultural relevance and ability to either inspire any type of emotion based on the reactions it can get from people of all ages. You know, Blazing Saddles means different things to different generations of people, right? And to do stuff like this, it speaks to the corporatization of art in many ways. I know Ian Fleming approved a couple of the changes in here. He approved the authorized edits on the US version of Live and Let Die, right? But the changes they're making, it says a commonly used pejorative term used for black people by Fleming, whose Bond books were published in 1951 and 66, have been removed almost entirely and replaced with black person or black man, in another instance referred to as been edited. The other problem I have with this is that they both put a trigger warning at the beginning of the books and make edits, which actually is going to make people even more sensitive. So they're editing the parts they think are sensitive to people now, but still...
Like, you're adding a trigger warning even though you removed the triggering content.
Yes.
So you're trying to actively deter people from buying and reading the book. And also, like, these books were written during a time when that pejorative term, which we can't say on YouTube,
was not pejorative,
considered pejorative. It's just like... the word for mentally handicapped that starts with R.
Yep.
That used to not be considered a pejorative term.
Nope. I mean, even in
same with like something like imbecile. Like, that used to be used as a medical term.
So they just removed ethnicities from the book, which is just like, so you're just making it a weird, like, your weird hangups, which is like, what this does is it says more about the readers, as these things often, like, a lot of times they say a book tells you more about the author than it does about the reader. But now these people are effectively the authors because they're the ones making the changes to it. So these changes tell you a hell of a lot more about the feelings, the emotions, and the sensitivities of these sensitivity readers than it does about the general public.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake to go back and revise history, and fictional books are in some ways a reflection of around them.
And what it is it's creating, like, so if art is to be passed down, and this is how we speak to future generations, you're homogenizing a culture based on the most sensitive of our population and passing that sentiment down to the next generation of people, which almost ensures that it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
I think also you're erasing the chance for anyone to look at the context of which this book was written and make decisions for themselves, right? If I tell you a word is bad, but I won't even tell you what the word is, how are you supposed to come to your the conclusion on your own, right?
Yeah.
If there's a term that's not used and you're able to grasp that at the time our culture treated that world differently than we do now, you can read the book and not be offended.
They say that, like, basically Ian Fleming asked for a couple of things to be removed in the past, and they're using that as like the latch on. They're like, well, he made changes in the past, now we can go hog wild and make all the changes. That was the changes to I'm sorry, not ethnicities, to the in Live and Let Die. Let me go back up here again. It says the pejorative for black people is removed in the US versions of those.
Only the U.S. version.
According to this,
okay.
yeah. So, and it says...
Well, the history of that word is it originated in the U.S.
So it says, for example, in Live and Let Die, Bond's opinions of Africans in the gold and diamond trades is pretty law-abiding chaps. I should have thought, except when they've drunk too much. That was like the original statement. And then it says, and it's been altered to pretty law-abiding chaps. I should have thought. So they just removed the part about how, except for when they drank too much. Why? Like, seriously, you're making
law-abiding chaps who would never, have any moral fault because they're not human.
You're fundamentally changing the story in a lot of ways. It's disturbing.
Well, when I went off the path and like read this op-ed about this woman getting recruited as one of these sensitivity readers. I like began to understand like how do people get into these corporate positions that are like inclusion officer, belonging
I want to be belonging
executive,
officer
like
someday.
stuff like that, because they're originally hired on as something that sounds totally normal, and then they're poached for, you know, being brought onto this smaller team when this top publishing house decides that, you know, they need to start taking precautions as not to get cancellations, you know? So she said that her boss explained that they would be part of a team of beta readers. So she didn't say sensitivity readers.
Yeah.
Offering authors pointers on aspects of their work that might be outside of their knowledge. For example, was the portrayal of a black protagonist culturally appropriate when a white author had written it? And she said, as a straight white woman, I didn't think I had much to offer, but so she's like totally woke as well. Like she doesn't think that she has anything to offer here because she's white. But my boss explained we could draw on our personal experiences. She cited me being working class, a perspective often lacking in publishing, and my previous alcohol issues, which I was open about, as qualities that made me right for the role.
These people are the opposite of creative.
She asked if there was a history of mental illness or abuse in my past. I was caught unaware. Keen to please, I offered details of my experiences with domestic violence and mental health issues while she nodded and took notes. This is trauma, like mining people for their trauma and then making them feel revered and respected for offering it to you when you're not entitled to that information, and then using it for nefarious purposes.
But that's how people get famous on Instagram right now, right? Like tons of people will say, here's my trauma and I want to talk about it openly, and that's good. And if you do, that's fine. Like this person in the op-ed that you read is saying, in my office,
somehow feels
talked
more
openly
nefarious
about
when it's a
my
business
struggles
mining
with
it.
alcohol, and maybe she posted about it online. Like whatever the purpose was, that's her choice. At any point during this interview, she could have said like, I don't want to talk about that, right? Like we reward people on all fronts for saying this is why I'm different and I have a unique experience, especially when it's trauma based.
She's professionally and emotionally incentivized to offer all of this information that her boss is not entitled to know.
And let's face it, what they want is they don't want people to be creative. They want everyone to just write their own life experience because you're called names and told you're a bad person if you try to write anything from another person's perspective, which is hilarious because these people claim to be creatives. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. They eventually want a world where you're only allowed to do one thing, and that's stay in your lane.
They would never, it's not even just stay in your lane, because they wouldn't have a problem with a black author writing from the perspective of a white protagonist.
They would if they made it a good
publishers?
person, I think.
The publishers, the sensitivity readers, the people who end up you know, buying this off of the shelves. I went to one of these bookstores around here, and they're all, of course, owned by rabid leftists. And I opened up one of these books, and it literally was like about a white guy waking up and being black all of a sudden, and him just going about his daily life and experiencing people like giving him dirty looks or following him around stores, or, you know, throwing pejoratives at him as he walks down the street, like having implicit bias inflicted against him, all of this different stuff that is in his daily experience now because he has a different color of skin. So this is probably written by a black author, and you're still writing it, of course, from a white protagonist's perspective.
Well, it's allowed.
They would never have
that
a problem with that.
No, they wouldn't.
It's a double standard, obviously.
I would rather these sensitivity readers started their own YouTube channels and critique these books on their merits and say, look, I didn't like this part. It offended me. There's probably a market for that, for the easily offended people who want to say, look, he used the word, what was the other? There was another really interesting example that they gave in here that I thought was worth talking about, where they talk about... Straight Harlem. Yeah, okay, so it says, another scene in the book set during a strip tease at a Harlem nightclub was originally Bond could hear the audience panting and grunting like pigs at the trough. He felt his own hands gripping the tablecloth. His mouth was dry. This has been revised to Bond could sense the electric tension in the room, a segment in the book describing accented dialogues as straight Harlem deep south with a lot of New York thrown in has been removed.
Wait, so his line that
Pigs
was
in the trough
literally
is gone.
It was degrading the men who are objectifying the stripper.
Misogyny
has been removed.
We have to wait for another 20 years to go by for the next
And we can't pretend that this is not connected to, people attacking themes in the James Bond film franchise. They're trying to change James Bond as the character he's been on screen as well, specifically in how he treats women.
They've already gotten rid of the misogyny on camera.
Yeah.
Now they got to get rid of the self-imposed, weirdly not racist racism.
That's not misogyny. He's calling the misogynist men pigs. He's literally putting them down.
They're saying that the majority of the men in the scene are
black. Therefore, pigs
we can't equate them to anything bad. It's the same reason that they take out the line about like when they drink too much, they don't listen to the law, which by the way could apply to literally anyone of any race. I think we have to remember that ultimately all of this is about making money, right? So they want to keep publishing the James Bond franchise because it will sell in perpetuity. But at the end of the day, they don't want to be critiqued for not having deleted this stuff.
I also remember,
are hoping that they can continue making money while also degrading the thing that they want to make money off of. It's really sick. I think part of it is if this author had a choice today, would you want to sign your book to this publishing company, knowing that they ultimately don't respect
it's in his
your
name.
work?
I mean, like it's his publishing company. They're just.
But he's not involved with it, right?
This is essentially common practice in all of the top publishing companies now, and you can't escape it.
Yep.
And
it's funny too because for like when is this going to happen to like. I look at this stuff, like I read Casino Royale. That was the only Bond book that I read, and I read it when I was very young. But in general, I think of this more in the term of scripts, right? Like think about your movies and the things that you love that way. Like what if they end up making, like somebody's going to get inspired to make art later based on homogenized versions of these books, right? So I wouldn't want my script, if I wrote a movie script, to be changed. Why would a book be any different? It shouldn't be.
This also reminds me of people who are still combing through J.K. Rowling's books looking for racist references and inferences.
It's all critical theory.
They think that she's stereotyping Irish people because there's an Irish character that blows things up, and that means that she thinks all Irish people are in the IRA.
Seamus Finnegan.
Or something as silly as that, to claiming that she is a raging anti-Semite because the goblins own banks and have big noses.
That's the culture we're in right now, though. So on the one hand, I don't like what they're doing with James Bond books. On the other hand, we have built this institution where they know if they put anything out that is perceived as controversial, even though it's not, they are opening themselves up to
it says more about the fears and the cowardice of big business than it does.
I don't think they actually care about any of this.
No, of course not. They don't give a crap.
It is all about making money and making sure that they continue to profit off the legacy of these books, which, by the way, sold as they were.
Yep. So it says, Ian Fleming's publication has told the Telegraph, we at Ian Fleming Publications reviewed the text of the original Bond books and decided our best course of action was to follow Ian's lead. We have made changes to Live and Let Die. So they took his example where he removed those words for the American version back in the day to make further changes now, which just proves that it's just business. It's just business bullshit.
There's no stopping point for this.
No.
Of course, one of the next targets would be like Tolkien's works.
Oh yeah.
And what is appropriate for children's audiences? Are they suited to read about these violence?
They get to tell you what you're suited for.
The violent scenes where they're like in combat and there's bloodshed. And they'll decide what is and isn't appropriate for your children to read.
And that's maybe more offensive than anything, is them feeling as if they're the anointed ones who get
and they
to decide.
despise Tolkien, by the way.
Well, he's already been added to a list of you're right wing if you read 1984, if you read Brave New World, if you read Tolkien, if you read Shakespeare,
horror.
If you use any sort of discernment for yourself rather than be given something that has no offensive viewpoints, right? That's the challenge with all of this. Art is supposed to make you think, art is supposed to make you uncomfortable. And so getting a book that's been scrubbed of anything that could possibly evoke any kind of debate is sort of a waste of the human mind. They do a disservice to the reader by thinking they cannot handle any sort of nuanced context, especially when it comes to discussing race.
Art dies first in these things, and art is dying a very slow death right now. So, all right, we got some super chats there, Mary.
Corey Anderson said, I wholeheartedly believe that HC is the real boss of the Timcast empire. She has her beautiful hands in everything. Lol.
So is the idea that you're like undercover boss? Like
Do you remember they used to say that actually Timcast was a subsidiary of Seamus's company?
Oh,
and that
Freedom
he funds
Tunes.
it. I fund Freedom Tunes, and Freedom Tunes then funds Timcast. You
Did
know?
you ever see
You're
the
like
show,
the Peter Thiel of Freedom Tunes.
Exactly. I'm the Peter Thiel of all alternative energy.
Did you ever see the show Dollhouse? With
No.
Eliza
Yeah.
Dushku, yeah. In that, Eliza Dushku's character Echo has a handler, right, that helps her on her missions, and it turns out that Boyd, her handler, is actually the owner of the entire conglomerate, and he's been working because she's special, so he's like working undercover, and nobody there knowing that he's the boss of the conglomerate. Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate the compliment. I'm totally in.
you are
but
like you're.
I just couldn't reveal
You're better
myself
looking than
now.
Harry Lennox, though. So.
Thank you, Brett. I appreciate that. Thank you, Tom Cruise Candle, for making Brett say that.
That
B
is-
Mafia 716 said next candle Brett needs is his political crush Lauren.
Oh my! If I could get a
If
Lauren.
I find a Lauren Boebert candle, I will bring it to
Okay,
you.
It's gotta be out there.
Here's the funny thing too, like after like I don't know if like YouTube like listens to us or whatever, like when we're having these conversations.
Yeah.
But like I started getting sent like Lauren Boebert shorts on YouTube, and I'm like, I don't want political shit.
I thought you almost meant like the clothing item, like shorts that have
No.
Lauren
That'd be disgusting. Please
On
never
them?
wear those.
I was just thinking like, do I have any celebrity crush? And I'm just like racking my brain.
You
I
love
really
Twilight. We could get you a
don't.
Twilight candle.
No.
I think celebrity crushes are actually things that mostly have.
Yeah, I don't
I
think
think
I
that
have
women
one.
are much more.
What?
Okay, but here.
What?
Unless they're like teenage
Boy
girls in,
band
like a
crushes?
boy band.
Oh yeah.
I think because men are more aesthetically driven, which is totally acceptable. And so
Probably.
being attracted to or like having a crush on celebrity
Mm.
is more natural. Like you don't actually know a celebrity. I think there are some girls who listen to a lot of interviews and see them in movies and develop an idea of who someone is and think they have
Yeah.
a crush on them. But I think naturally it would make more sense if men had crushes on people on the screen.
Yeah, but if I watch the interviews and I like find out what this person is like, I'm only going to be more repulsed, right?
Probably.
Like with the caliber of these celebrity males. Potatoes for Seamus said, "Party on Brett." Hi HCB. Fast and Furious update, and hi Mary.
I don't have Fast and Furious update this week.
Busy week.
Spent all my weekend searching for Brett's candle. No, I'm kidding. But I'll
That's
get one to
It
you
was a
soon.
busy time.
That's a fair excuse. Did
I
you?
do have a Harry Potter update though. I watched Order of the Phoenix. I forgot to update you guys on this yesterday, so I guess I'll just do it now. Yeah, I don't know. They're all starting to blend together. I just don't care. I don't care about any of this.
The books are better.
I'm realistically not going to read the books
Yeah.
either because they're so freaking long,
I
and
think you
each
should-
book is longer than the last.
Yeah, they
I
get
would
progressively
consider
longer.
listening to the books because they're narrated
Get-
by Jim Dale. who
Yes,
does-
Jim Dale's
okay.
great.
does an amazing job.
Actually, I've listened to. Okay, this is a very dirty. I like both versions. I like the American version done by Jim Dale and the British version done by Stephen Fry. So I have both of them.
Yeah.
And then you get to listen to them where they say bin rather than trash can or like and all the
There are slight changes.
Yeah, all the linguistic differences. But Jim Dale's great. Jim Dale is
he's really talented, and he does a different voice for every character, and it's
his girl voices are better than Stephen Fry's in those books. Stephen Fry's girl voices in the Harry Potter audiobooks are really, really bad. Like they're just over the
I
top.
don't enjoy Stephen Fry as
Yeah.
a dude.
He's kind of based, isn't he?
I have
don't
no
know.
idea.
I think
I
he
mean, I
is.
just, yeah. But,
I mean, John Cleese is.
not that you have to read them, but if
Yeah.
you do, if you
Yeah.
choose to, and they're easy to like listen to while you're driving or whatever else. And again, he does a really, really great job.
the movies, I just,
I'm so glad that you knew that. That you knew that they were like. I was about to bring it when you said audiobooks. I'm like, I know this. I know their names.
And some people like don't like the audiobook format at all, but I think especially listening with Jim Dale,
Yeah.
like it's a cool experience. I would say I like the audiobooks way better than I like.
When I was younger, I had to
I'd
have
like
them
play
on.
them if I had a few kids in the car. But
When I was younger and I had them on audio cassette, so like you have the tape box. It's like this big.
I would get the audio cassettes from Chick-fil-A when they gave those out as like toys.
Yeah.
Or did they give out like CDs at
Probably
some point?
CDs by
Probably
that point.
CDs
Yeah.
by the time I was like getting those in my meals from Chick-fil-A.
I
But
just
they would give out like Focus on the Family stuff.
Mhm.
Those were cute.
I remember when I think I've talked about this before, but Cracker Barrel used to be a main component of my family road trips, and we did a lot of road trips because you could rent an audiobook at one Cracker Barrel location and drop it off at the next. And so we had like a fold-up map in the car, and my dad would be like, "That's where we're going."
Have you seen the there's these amazing TikToks of Chick-fil-A boot camp?
What?
It's not real. It's these guys doing like it's like. So it's
This
like
is
a
for
guy.
employees?
It's not real. It's like skits that these guys do. And this guy, so it's this guy's they're wearing the red polo, and he's in the back of a pickup that's driving, and he's throwing chicken nuggets at a guy who's catching them as they're going and saying like all the phrases and everything. He's like, yeah, it's incredible. Good. I don't know what you'd have to look
There's
it up.
like a drill sergeant saying thank you in your face. And
Yeah.
you have to be like, bye.
You know, so it's like my blood. Yeah, so like it's like he goes to other side of the door. Just go online and look up like
Love
Chick-fil-A boot
Chick-fil-A.
camp. Yeah,
Last thing I ate before my Mark Wahlberg 40-day challenge.
how's that going?
Better than yesterday. That's
Yeah.
all I know. I'm going minute by minute. Big Dave sent us $1 without a message.
Thank you, Big Dave.
Disco Jensen said, "We're living in 1984. Even that book isn't safe."
I mean, that was the peakest of irony. It's not a word, but peakest of irony is them changing 1984.
What's the fun in reading that
Girl
anymore?
version of 1984?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Who knows?
Francisco Sanchez Jr. said, "Rom-coms make money with the right budget, but lack mass appeal on a larger scale."
Yeah, they're like the idea would be that if rom-coms have a renaissance, it won't be in theaters. It will be on streaming.
I think they could have a theater renaissance. I think the fact that people only want to put them on streaming shows a lack of creativity in the industry.
I agree with the lack of creativity part.
At least
for
the
sure.
Julia Roberts one probably will go to theater, right?
There's a
The one
ton of
with George
them that are
Clooney.
on streaming that I think could have had a strong theater performance. I don't know that they'll do it. I'm just saying that's the content that I think there's a gap, and if they don't fill it, they're making a mistake.
Let's hold off on the rest, and we will come
Okay.
back. All right, guys, we're moving on. So, Fran Drescher from The Nanny. I'm not even going to do an impersonation of her voice, but she has like the greatest voice of all time. She calls for Halloween.
We're off to a great
We're
start.
off to a fantastic start. Fran Drescher calls for Hollywood to end the bullish vaccine mandates in her SAG speech. Definitely not
How
Halloween.
brave of her to do this 3 years in. It's crazy.
Well, she did it like earlier last year
Yeah,
too.
last
but-
year.
Last year, but
how,
yes.
how brave of her to do it 2 years in.
But she manages to use freedom, diversity, and inclusion in the same sentence, which is just a phrase I've never heard before. It was incredible, like just reading it at the same time. It was hilarious. So let's go through this. She says, it says, as the nation declares an end to COVID emergency this May, I hope we will see everyone return to work in equal opportunity, Drescher, age 65, said in her speech. The industry's pandemic protocols were originally set to end on January 31st, but now expire on April 1st. I love that they just get to go on forever.
In line with
We're
All-
still in a state across the nation, but if they want our business, let's wield our financial influence to make governors act in the best interest of freedom, diversity, inclusion, and democracy.
I've never
That's
heard
wild.
that. That is such a weird, like freedom, diversity, inclusion, and democracy is just a weird thing to say.
As my character, Bobby Fleckman, said in This is Spinal Tap, money talks and BS
Did
walks.
she just quote herself as a character?
Yeah.
Oh, they were saying
Yeah.
that they were saying that it glitched,
Thank
but we're
you.
back now. Someone's hogging the bandwidth.
What is this?
Stream's good.
I don't know what this is.
It was Woody Harrelson's thing from the monologue.
Oh.
It was I was inspired to create it with the X Files
SNL's
theme.
Best Biden.
Yes.
Feels.
That
Are we back, guys? And that's like broken.
I don't know. I'm looking at the stream right now. I'm trying to figure it out.
This.
wow.
Why is it still going?
Tell me the count is going up though. I should get credit for all of these.
Is it haunted?
Trying that, it's not working.
Really?
Guys,
Hold on, I'm just going to record this for a minute.
just pull it out in the back. There we go. Guys, we back?
Now.
Ghost
burger
in the
place?
machine. They're still chatting.
Are we good? Chat, let me know if we're good. All right. We're okay now. That was like 3 crisis parties and the lights are all messed up.
We're gonna stay like this all day.
We could just leave the lights
I'm in a
like this.
constant crisis part.
That has happened before where it just continued for the rest of the show.
But
but only on Brett's side.
Well, I'm just gonna monologue here until you guys, so you guys can do your tech stuff. Oh, our cool mood lights have gone out too.
We need our mood lighting back.
Well, no, I'm trying to fix them.
I feel like
Midstream
the
crisis.
COVID lady. I get what she's saying. Like, it's good to call for this. On the other hand, is she like the head of the SAG Awards? Like,
Yeah, she's the head
I
of
feel
SAG.
like her being like, "Come on, guys, let's do
Right.
something," shows a lack of ability to actually organize.
Lack of
like,
initiative.
She's saying we should do something. She's not saying like, as the head of this organization, we have all agreed that we won't produce movies until, you know, this issue is resolved, right? Like, she's just saying we should do something, and we all agree that she should do something, and she's still not.
It's like what Maddie Healy was saying. I don't stand for things. I stand against things, and they happen to be, you know, the most morally obvious things.
Sure. Well,
that require the least effort from you.
Why is she even like? Why does it even matter that she's the head of SAG?
Yeah.
Like that, they're saying this like something's gonna happen and nothing's gonna happen. She's not organizing a mass walkout. She's not advocating for people who did lose their jobs because they didn't want to get the vaccine. Like she is saying we should do something and then producing no action, and she's expecting no one else to act. That's what I feel
also
like
doing
everything is
so in the
hollow.
name of diversity, equity, and inclusion
And freedom.
is not going to be the winning strategy.
No,
I
it's not.
wanted to start with something to start with a D, so she's spelling out died, but I just can't think of an equivalent word for freedom that begins with a D. If anyone has any suggestions, I'd really like to make this acronym work.
So not just that though, she also talks about how it says in her speech the actress also discussed her efforts to make Hollywood more environmentally friendly by joining with Green Council with the goal to eliminate single-use plastic on camera
This
and
is
behind
them-
the scenes.
That
if
is the
you're
biggest
eliminating
thing.
single-use plastic from being on production sets, being on screen, you're admitting that what people see on screen in their media and their entertainment that they consume influences their behavior in their daily life and their habits and their lifestyle.
They did it with cigarettes in the 80s, in the 70s and the 80s.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And this
absolutely.
should be self-explanatory to anyone with common sense that like what you watch influences your opinions on things. But when it suits them, they'll deny that this phenomenon exists.
Yeah. Or I mean, like when we see it in The Last of Us, they talk about how they're just telling stories.
Right.
They're just telling stories.
We're telling stories about people who have bodies in spaces. And like, you know, representation, and they're casting it as a noble effort, but you know, they'll only take responsibility when it's something that involves, you know, hiring consultants. That's their favorite thing to do. Joining with Green Council. I don't know anything about Green Council, but
Sounds vaguely sinister.
What do they do? What do they
big
accomplish in a
administrative-
concrete way?
It's a big administrative nonprofit that says they're doing something and makes money and charges studios
It's
for
a
it.
money laundering.
It's money laundering. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think that this is what bothers me. Like, if you want to eliminate single-use plastics, if that's your big goal in life, okay, cool. Make it as part of your contract. Make all of the environmentally conscious or the actors who claim to be warriors for the environment, put that in their contract.
Yeah.
Boom, problem solved, right?
Yeah.
But they're
It's
not
kinda
going to
like-
do that. Like, I hate it when they just say, we should be doing something. We're going to try. Like,
Well, they
you
have
guys
to-
have
It's
more
kind of like
power.
James Cameron giving his cast and crew vegan catering on Way of Water.
That's awful that she
Because
at
he
least
said,
given
you
them
know,
choice.
we can't criticize oil companies and then eat burgers
Yeah.
What?
because there's a correlation. People need to not eat meat in order to save the planet.
But not just this
according to James
guy's.
Cameron.
Not just this
You can have a
guy's.
great time with that. I'm sure your actors aren't happy.
But that's
and
his idea of like, you know, taking an active effort and saving the climate.
I like that at least better. You know what I mean? Like, at least
Better
he's
than just
literally-
preaching,
Oh,
I
the other
guess.
thing, we have partnered with this nonprofit that's going to spend a bunch of money doing nothing and publish a report to the
Consulting.
studio doing nothing, and then nothing's going to change.
When
And then
really
we're going to
it's-
clap ourselves on, like, pat ourselves on the back, and we're like, well, we ordered from Starbucks, which got rid of the straws, so therefore we did a good job.
It's really just a way to give them like material to fill their speeches at their endless award shows that they have to go to constantly. The award shows, the luncheons, the dinners.
Speaking of which, I wanted to play this clip from Sally Field's speech at the SAG Awards.
Okay. I have
Where
that.
she was praised for her self-awareness, which actually was just self-flagellation because she's white.
Did I lose that here? Here it is. I got it.
Yeah,
All right,
it's
here we
in
go.
our messages.
Here we go, guys.
I was a little white girl. with a pug nose, born in Pasadena, California. And when I look around this room tonight, I know my fight, as hard as it was lightweight
Of course.
compared to some of yours. I thank you and I applaud you.
Just don't cancel me. Whatever you do,
Please.
don't cancel me. Also,
And then,
She's saying that
she
some
got
people
a
were-
wave of praise for this.
But yeah.
Is she saying that her fight because she had a pug nose was not as bad as some people who are even worse looking? Like it's a dig to everyone. in the
your
room.
nose was far worse looking than mine.
I had a pug nose, but at least pugs are cute. Some
Yes.
of you are just too messed up.
You
for
with the
words.
hook nose over there, you must have had it real difficult.
Like-
Nobody trusts someone with a hook nose.
All you uglies in the audience,
Yeah.
I know you had a hard time
Your
coming up in
fight
this
is way
industry.
harder than mine, and honestly, good for her.
There we go.
What is happening?
The
Don't
guns.
tell me they're glitching again.
Well, they've been glitching. They never stopped glitching. It is what it is, my friends. It's all right.
I like it because now if people super chat, they could really potentially throw
Yeah,
us off because
like-
we don't know what's real.
There's
and what's
going to
not.
be just a blanket across this entire studio.
Actually, let's
of money
take
at
a
the
look.
end.
It's already starting, guys. If you want to,
I have my neat stack of stuff.
And by the way, this doesn't even show what's on the floor.
yeah,
It's already all over
The floor is the hardest one. That's where all the money is to pick up is from there. So look, guys, they love to self-flagellate. They love to I really do feel like they get a charge out of it. Like they feel really good about themselves when they put themselves down and they talk about how much harder everyone has had it than them.
I don't know. I like this girl with her backhanded compliments.
She's like, oh my gosh, your
Could
ugliness
easily
must have.
be taken that way.
You're-
Or like, I'm from Pasadena, but some of you are from the Midwest.
That
Your
is very
struggle has
difficult.
been so hard.
Yeah.
The Fran Drescher also applauded IMDb for taking a stand against ageism and stereotyping and gender rigidity by allowing our
Gender
members
rigidity.
Yes, by allowing our members to define themselves their way on their
Good job, everybody.
Yep.
It seems like the most ineffective president of all time.
It's doing it again. No, and
Is the stream out? What's going on with
Another platform to talk on. Like, that actress probably has a significant following. They're mad at me for criticizing Fran. But I don't care. I'm going to do it anyways.
Michelle Yeoh is still taking every opportunity she can to complain about how hard it is to be an Asian woman in Hollywood.
I can't tell if
to
it's.
also be like a certain age in Hollywood.
What, dude, we keep losing the stream.
Do you think we should restart
no,
it?
I don't
or
know
what?
if that's gonna help. I guess just keep going for the time being.
Give it like,
Chat, can you hear me? It's saying I think it could be the super chats setting this off.
do you want to switch to super chats for a minute? Can I try to get some of those in?
No, like the chat's still going good though. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess this segment will not be cut up into a segment tomorrow. This will not be
Yeah.
something.
Wow, so
to-
you're
so.
protecting Fran.
I'm protecting Fran.
That's
Maybe
crazy.
maybe it's
You're
maybe
not
it's
allowing
Hollywood doing
Fran
this.
criticism to reach the
Well,
airwaves.
lastly, I wanted to mention the fact that Mark Wahlberg was the one who presented Everything Everywhere All at Once with their award at the SAGs. So he then had his past thrown back in his face.
Yeah.
And I hate how people talk about this like their past when it was just one thing that happened in the 80s.
It's like it was a couple of things. He was 16.
Okay, like there was this story where he's like, he's 16. He was stealing alcohol from some liquor store, and then what did he do? He like punched a Vietnamese guy in the face.
Yeah, like when he was
in the middle of committing a crime, he did
In the
something else
middle,
bad.
yeah, he.
Well, that's the funny
They were
part
like,
about
oh, stealing the liquor wasn't that bad, but you shouldn't punch an Asian person because it shows.
Chat again. It keeps going out.
Just power through, Brett. They'll catch up. Or they
it's-
won't.
So it says Wahlberg hit the man in the head with a stick while trying to steal alcohol and punched Johnny Trin in the face. He alleged that he was high at the time. He was charged as an adult with attempted murder and sentenced to 2 years on felony assault, but only served 45 days. And he apologized to this gentleman, and that
Years
years later, and that man accepted his apology.
But at that point, it's like this happened so long ago. He's he's like 51 now or something like that. This happened so long ago that what is even the point of talking about it anymore? There's no proof of what happened. There's no footage. this guy
35
presumably
years ago.
accepted the apology,
Yep.
but now other people are taking it upon themselves to be the ones who accept or reject the apology. They weren't the people who were wronged, so
Yeah.
why does their opinion matter?
And nothing changes, right?
And what does that have to do with Michelle Yeoh?
Yeah.
She's also Asian because
But she's not
They-
even
and they- and they think-
Vietnamese.
yeah, they think all Asian
but
people
that's
look
the thing.
the
It's
same.
like a broad generalization that
Yeah.
I would think is racist, but
Yeah, exactly.
who even knows?
Yeah.
I think it's just the thing that other than you're just trying to say like, well, he's a white man who's bad.
Yep.
They think that he's the wrong person to present this award
Yep.
because we can't forgive his problematic past. To call it even problematic is such an abuse of language.
I just think it's like
Like-
now these newsrooms are overstaffed and everyone has to write something and they couldn't think of anything else to say, so they're like, I know that guy is a problem, so I'll
because
write
nothing
about
happened
him.
at the SAG Awards. because
Yeah.
award shows
SAG
are
awards
irrelevant.
dumb, especially
Leave it.
Plug it back in. We'll see. Turn it off and turn it back on. We'll
Put it
see if
in
that. We'll
rice.
see if that works. Guys, I mean, I think we're gonna leave. I think we're gonna lose most of the people, anyways. So let's.
but I'm
let's
still
just,
here, Brett.
let's-
And Tom Cruise is still with us.
Let's.
7 said, I hope creature features make an epic comeback. Spaghetti Warrior said, I'm trying to watch Yellowstone. The writing is obviously very good and the plot is exciting, but I'm getting so tired of just watching messed up people with bad character traits. Did you all like it?
Yeah.
I love Yellowstone, and I totally know what you mean. The thing is, I think
They're just bad people.
I think one of the best parts of it is that you have to juxtapose, like, you really get to ask what's evil and what's wrong.
Yeah.
Because there are obviously, like, acts of violence, or there are people who are messed up or cruel in some way, and I think they are the more interesting, nuanced characters. There's not an obvious, completely 100% good person.
Yeah.
And it can be kind of intense, like, or emotionally draining to be like, man, you all have, like, these terrible backstories. On the other hand, like, where are they redeemed, and in what ways do they, in what situation?
Like we're just gonna go.
Did you want to
through it,
move
like-
to the next segment?
No, keep going. No, next super chat.
Okay. Isaac Martinez said, are you all planning to see Cocaine Bear? I am. Okay, fake fan hasn't seen our review yet for Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear is
Do you
incredible.
guys release reviews just on the website or on YouTube?
We've been
It
putting
depends.
it on here.
Depends on the review.
Lately, we've been doing it here. Depends on
Here being YouTube or here being
YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, YouTube.
Because
on
when
the
you
channel.
say here and we're in the building, I think
Yeah.
it's the website.
Like, yeah, I just put it up on the wall. I print it out. I put it on a DVD.
We do
I
a
put it on
screening
TV.
and you guys make everyone watch it, and I've missed it every time.
Yeah.
We did see it, though, to answer your question.
And it's incredible. Everyone should go see it.
1,000 Foot Deep End said, I distinctly remember the smell of gack.
Yeah, it has a
Ugh.
very distinct smell.
And phloem as well.
Yeah.
Phloem is more my preference.
Your generation.
Yeah. Hobbit said, I'm disturbed by the word goop. I just said it again. I'm
That's
sorry.
Gwyneth Paltrow's brand, so
Yep.
be mad at her.
Dane Font said,
Oh, hey.
the failure of the rom-com is due to our inability to express our desires in their most authentic nature. Instead, it presents love in its most palatable and non-offensive form, which is lame AF.
Go off, King.
I think that's such a good analysis. I also think that people want that. I think people want things that make them feel good and they don't feel like huge risks, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, you want them to fall in love, then there's a conflict, then they
Yep.
do fall in love. And
Yep.
I think people sometimes like that security, seeking out entertainment.
Let's do one more, and then we'll move on. And we're just gonna go with it. We're just chilling today,
Is
guys.
the stream...
Looks like we're
fine, or-
fine. I mean, if we lose it, we lose it. But we're just gonna keep going. It's
Okay.
one of those days.
Disco Jensen said, we are living through the collapse of Western society. Current content reflects the aimlessness of our culture.
Think that's true?
a dark note to
Think that's true?
move into the next subject.
And with that being said, let's talk about. Do you think that's true though? Do you think he's accurate in that assessment? Maybe sort of.
I don't know about Western society as a whole,
Yeah.
because we're only looking at America, but it's not the collapse.
Okay.
It would feel a lot different if this were the collapse.
All right.
This is too boring to be a collapse.
Okay.
I
Unplug it. Yeah, unplug it.
Does not agree with
Where
you.
it does
or
not
really
agree with us
agrees
today.
you. I don't know.
All right, guys, we're moving
Okay.
on. So, in their worldwide privacy tour, privacy tour. Prince Harry, I almost called him Harry Styles. Prince Harry Styles.
No.
Prince Harry has decided that the best way to get privacy is to ignore HIPAA laws, like I said, and display his trauma for everyone to see by going in to see a therapist and charging you, the viewer, $33.99, or it was like $33.95.
$33.99.
That's So you can pay $40 to go. You can pay $40 to go listen to all of Harry's trauma. Harry's Trauma would be a great band name.
So he's going to be talking to a trauma expert named Gabor Mate.
Yep.
And here's what he had to say about it. In Spare, or Wah, Prince Harry is very open about his mental health challenges, as I have been about my own in my
Weird.
books.
Usually you're private about your mental health challenges.
He
It's
said,
very strange.
Such a public conversation, I hope, will help encourage more openness about mental health and contribute to remove the stigma around what we call mental illness. Honestly, I think we could do with a little more stigma these days.
Capitalism.
I think in the modern age, we have sort of embraced mental health. We do talk about it. We acknowledge that people suffer from various issues, and that therapy or seeking counseling isn't necessarily a bad thing. We have removed a huge stigma. I think we are now replacing the idea of being aware of mental health as a potential detriment to health with self-obsession, right? Yep. People say like, oh, I just want to talk about my mental health because I'm, promoting this, that, or the other, or I want to talk about my grief, or I want to talk about, whatever it is. And sure, maybe tell your story in a way that helps someone else understand, like, this is maybe normal, or maybe this is a reason to go seek help. But if you constantly talk about it, you're mostly just wanting to talk about yourself.
I mean, if
right?
I see a TikTok of someone saying that they haven't brushed their teeth in 2 years because they have depression, and everyone in the comments is applauding them, I don't think that that's doing work to destigmatize mental health. I think most people who see that are thinking, wow, that's disturbing. Scroll. Like, the people who aren't commenting don't think that this is an affirming message. They think that it's gross and disturbing, also, and they're stigmatizing it more in their minds.
You're saying you're depressed, you haven't brushed your teeth, but you do have time to make you
have the motivation to publicize that to millions of people.
And then what happens? Like, someone are like, wow, like, you're going through so much. Be nice to yourself, whatever else. Like, maybe they really do. They have good intentions. They want to be supportive. They want to be kind to people who might be suffering. But then the person who's like, wow, that reel did so well.
Yeah.
So therefore, if I get over my depression and brush my teeth, I will then no longer have this niche that gives me attention, was actually what I'm seeking. Mm-hmm. I think that we say we're talking about mental health when really we're just trying to talk about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Harry wants to give another interview and he can't come up with another angle.
Yeah.
So
I'm no Princess Diana stan or anything, but I feel like this is kind of to treat mental illness. I'm sure Ian would be very opinionated about that, but there have been more cases that I've seen where people do ayahuasca and then go into deeper and deeper holes of not only depression but also psychosis.
It's true of anything. Like, some people say taking CBD oil can help with anxiety or whatever. Or
there's a scale, though. There are degrees of extremity.
Some people will say you can treat post-traumatic stress disorder through, like, when you take mushrooms, and some of these things work in some cases. The thing is, your brain is, you never know what your brain is going to do until it's too late. And so,
is he telling Prince Harry?
He wants to stay in the news.
This is tabloid gossip masquerading as, like, some kind of activist movement. This trauma expert said, a discussion of loss, trauma, and healing is of interest to people at all levels of society. Some statement that's as vague as that could kind of pass as true, but really the reason that people are going to pay to see this live stream is because it has Prince Harry in it, and he's going to talk about Princess Diana and people who are considered, celebrities of interest.
Yeah.
And they want
the
gossip.
You know what people also like looking at? Car wrecks. You know what people also like looking at? Fights that people are having on the street, to be like, what are they arguing about? Like, tell me really right now.
How many people bought Spare just so they can make fun of him?
I think that this is ultimately, an act of him wanting to stay in the media. And I think if he really wanted to advance conversations about mental health, he has the resources to do it, right? He could be speaking, he could be working with a coach and then go on a public speaking tour and speak at high schools and tell kids, like, it can be really stressful, this, that, and the other. Here's what I did. He could be opening clinics. He could be giving out grants through a foundation that he starts. But instead, he's like, here's another chance to see me screen. I think that it's revealing what his motivations are. And I just think ultimately by claiming this is about mental health, like it is and it isn't, right? It's about his personality. It's about maybe an act of, it's about being conceited, but it's not about helping someone who is struggling with depression, anxiety, or whatever.
How does the trauma experienced by a member of the royal family relate to the average person's life anyways, to a point where they could extrapolate any useful information from that?
I mean, I guess the general concept of losing a family member, but beyond that, this is people paying to hear salacious details about the royal family because they're interested in that, the tabloid gossip stuff. And, you know, this is a continuation of the Worldwide Privacy Tour, which, by the way, violates the privacy of his family members who haven't signed the book deals, who haven't signed the Netflix deals, but are now getting talked about, like, against their will. And rightly have a problem with that. Like, now, for instance, Prince William and Kate Middleton are going to be wrapped up in conversations about this because Prince Harry has decided to, you know, mine himself for trauma and sell it to the public.
By the way, guys, I don't think it's actually the super chats. I think it's like anytime I try to do anything, like anything I try to like open like anything different on the computer, this is when it seems to go in and out.
Really? Harry is also going to be on Colbert next week, I heard. The segments and the media appearances never end.
Well, and he's only talking to high profile people, right? It bothers me that he's saying, like, if you want to talk about grief about losing a parent, like that's really serious, but why don't you reach out to kids who have experienced that and work with them? Right? Why does it always have to be like, I'm talking to a high profile doctor, I'm talking to a celebrity,
and it just so happens coincidentally that it's things that are lucrative for me and also like amplify his clout as like a wannabe American celebrity.
I think if you wanted to make a difference, there are ways to actually more directly impact people. I don't think what he's doing is that, and that's why it just feels like I mean, even if somehow this was genuine, that he really, really did want to be a part of mental health advocacy in America or in England or wherever, why would he put himself in the ivory tower to talk about it? Why wouldn't you go out among people and really stop it?
Speaking of the ivory tower, I just wanted to run by the drama surrounding King Charles's upcoming coronation. Apparently, a bunch of different musicians have refused to perform at this concert.
No Harry
on
Styles.
May 7th.
Feels
So
like
Harry Styles
should
has said
be there.
no. Elton John has said no. Robbie Williams, the Spice Girls,
I thought
Ed
Elton John
Sheeran,
had to because
Adele.
he's a knight.
What? Is Adele British?
Yes.
Okay, I was
from
totally
London?
unaware of that. But all of these artists have refused to perform there. And what is that about? Is it some kind of
couple of days? Like there was like people talking about Epstein's Island, like for like a couple of days when this all started, when Princess or when the Queen died, and then that kind of went away. So I don't know if I buy that it's that. But.
Okay, I just looked at it and I forgot.
I mean, it went away in the
but
American media, but it didn't go away in the British media.
Yeah.
Biden's inauguration had performances from Lady Gaga, Jennifer Lopez.
Look up Trump, though.
Yeah.
So is it his connection to Prince Andrew?
I think it's just
it's politicized in America, but like it could be
monarchy.
equally politicized over there.
Yeah, more
I
so
think
over there.
It is over there. I think that like they are controversial. Yeah, the Epstein stuff, sure, but also just generally, should the monarchy exist? Is Prince Andrew a good fit? I think like it's just like anyone not wanting to or not wanting to perform at a political inauguration.
Yeah.
And we know that, especially in Hollywood, everything leans blue. And so they're more likely to perform at a Democratic inauguration of a governor or whoever
absolutely.
than they would at a conservative.
It's always hilarious, all of the musicians who like sent Trump cease and desist letters about using their music at his events. Like, you can't use that. Not allowed. All right, let's go to super chats. I think we got a couple there.
We have a ton.
Well, let's read a couple, and then we'll just get through the last topic, and then we'll move on. We'll try to get through this as pain-free as possible, Mary.
The Lonely Grape said, first time watching PCC live. Thanks for that happen.
I have no idea.
Can we tell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I just switched to the.
They
to
just
the
said
screen.
nuance is non-existent
Yep.
in a world of wokeness, depressing as that further limits the creativity of writing and the roles shown. Anyways, happy Friday, Brett.
Well, thank you.
Halls and the Kid said, should I make merch for PCC that says "Don't gaslight me, bro"?
Yes. We should.
You should have, but it would have been nice.
That's a beautiful lady too.
Some men get offended when you call them beautiful. Maybe they're just trying to be sensitive.
KMF Opposers said, happy Thursday. 1 week HC needs to come on a Friday, and you guys can spend the whole episode gaslighting the audience that it's Tuesday. Yeah, we'll turn how the turntables.
Or at the very
turn.
least, we need you and Dane to do an episode together.
Yeah, I'd love to do an episode with Dana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jimmy Shelley said, more audiobook talk, please. I'm not an
You
audiobook
just generally want to talk about
stan,
books?
but
Or audiobooks in general.
Audiobooks specifically? I don't know any books that get released. I guess there are some that get released straight to audiobook. Right?
Really?
There have to be. With Audible and stuff?
I listened to the Dresden Files on audiobook. That was the only other one that I really liked.
Zine covered this, and we love Evie.
We do.
Riley Reid has revealed that her ex didn't want to kiss her when she came home from work, and she said that it made her feel like a disgusting person. This is from a TikTok. I don't know if we can play this on a.
We can.
It's
no,
embedded
I'm
in
not.
the
I'm not pulling
article,
anything. I'm
but-
not pulling it.
Maybe he was like, when
Did
we
he
get
think
married.
like I can fix her? Because so many people go into relationships these days thinking like that they're going to change the person, and that's their mission, and that person is a project, and that's not a good idea, especially if it's someone who is like literally famous and could be recognized on the streets at this point for appearing in adult content.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, maybe he thought.
they were married.
No,
Is
it
that
just,
the
it
case?
just said
I
ex.
didn't seem like they were married, but I do remember Mia Khalifa talking about
Yep.
her marriage, and she's divorced now, and she's only like
Shocking.
she's only like 29, and she's been divorced. She was talking about this with Emily Ratatouille, both like 30, relatively young to be divorced. And of course, you know, being stereotypical man haters about it, but you're not like evaluating the part that you yourself could have played in the downfall of that relationship.
So she thought she
said that her
hated
ex
porn.
was so anti-corn that she almost quit corn because she ended up thinking that she hated corn, but then realized that she just hated him. So she was saying this on No Jumper to Adam22, who, by the way, dated a corn star.
Yeah.
I forget her name. Something like Lana Rhoades. Yeah, it was Lana
Okay.
Rhoades. And Lana Rhoades herself talked about being ashamed of doing corn.
And she makes
And
way
then
more money
she-
now without it anyways.
Both Mia
Like,
Khalifa
yeah.
and Lana Rhoades moved on to doing OF, sort of like lewd content rather than like hardcore,
Yeah.
explicit stuff. But they feel like, you know, now that they've taken control of it and they are able to make all of the revenue from it and not give a cut to a company that's producing it, then, you know, that just solves all the problems. But that doesn't solve the problem of like feeling like your body belongs to the world.
Yeah.
Like losing a sense of identity. I don't think that anyone's identity should be wholly consumed by what their job is, but especially if your job is sex work.
Yeah.
Like that's just a whole other level. Like, and you know, you've seen that some of them are able to dissociate properly.
Mhm.
But
A lot of them.
If
in
you
the
have
industry,
to dissociate in order to cope with what your job is, maybe you should look into another line of work.
I mean, I don't know. Is it dissociation, or is it just that some of them have turned in? They figured out a commodity that they can sell
It's-
very, very well.
It's
in a way.
personality like
Yeah.
switching.
Yeah. in
You're
a
like
way.
fully dissociating emotionally from your job.
Yeah.
And if you need to do that, it's probably because you think it's ethically questionable.
I think so. Riley Reid, when she does this interview, says that ultimately it was her ex who made her feel
Yeah.
disgusting. And I think that is sort of
The scapegoat.
a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And I think it's trying to say that his opinion shouldn't have mattered in any way. And I think ultimately, if you're dating someone or you're married to someone that you respect and who is someone whose character you admire, like, don't live for the world's opinion of you. You shouldn't look for affirmation from everybody all the time. But someone who's so significant to you that you're in a serious relationship with, yes, if they think badly and that makes you feel bad, like, that is a time to reconsider what you're doing. I think part of this is trying to just play it off as, well, he wasn't the right person for me because he made me feel bad about myself. Well, maybe you felt bad about yourself because he didn't respect you because of what you were doing.
Yeah.
And that's worth listening
The
to.
lack of introspection is just shocking to me. Like that you can split your brain in half like that and not make the logical connection that maybe like your line of work is what is destroying your relationship.
Well,
think
and that you would defend your industry at all costs, right?
Yeah.
That
Well, I think
this is-
society.
You're more
has-
loyal to your industry than to your personal relationship.
Right. This industry is more important to who I am
Yeah.
than my potential, person who will be with me on my deathbed. We talk about it.
Yeah, but
with
there's no
wealth.
belief from anyone anymore. Like, I don't buy that anyone in that industry, or like, not even just that industry. A lot of people aren't actually looking at it that way. They don't think
they
of it.
should. I
They
think it's a
should,
mistake
but they
not to.
don't. Like, so it's like a lot of people. They say, look, the industry will theoretically be there longer than this person who I'm supposedly committed to because they're not. I
Right.
get,
And tell
And,
me
like-
it's a coincidence that all of these women are dating men who they describe as anti-corn. I mean, it's probably because what they're saying resonates with you, but you can't admit that to yourself.
I don't know.
There's
I think
another
it works
one
both
who
ways,
married
though,
a
'cause I
there was
think
another
there
one who
are-
married a pastor.
I think there are
I
guys
haven't heard
who
of
are
that
like,
Yeah.
situation.
I can save her. I'm anti-corn, and therefore I'll show her that her lifestyle is bad, and it doesn't win out. Partially because I think, I mean,
It's like
I don't
falling
know
in
a
love
ton
with the
about it,
prostitute.
but OnlyFans probably drives a big part of this, right? The same way that social media is addictive. Like if you were anti-influencer culture, right? And then you start dating someone who's an influencer and you're like, but over time I'll show that that's not really the way you should live. Well, you're battling their deep needed dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
Like you are battling against something that they make their living off doing, and they get their self-esteem from. It's tough to follow. The same thing, like if you talk to someone who has a career and like you ask them like, well, would you give it up if it would save your relationship? I think some people would want to say yes, but ultimately know that it would be very hard to divorce themselves from this thing that is core to their identity.
Yeah.
Also, correction, someone in the chat said that Adam22 is actually dating Lena the Plug, not Lana Rhodes.
Yeah. Lana Rhodes
Fact
is
check.
I believe Lana Rhodes has a kid too now. If I remember correctly.
So then
Yeah.
men don't date her?
She's well, I mean, I don't know if I don't think she's married, but I think she's single mom. Look, it is what it is for these type of things. It's shocking that they were like, I almost have to applaud like the kind of, it's not willful ignorance, but it's like, is it like a certain amount of like, you just think everything's going to work out if you just go into this relationship and don't think for a second that it's going to cause problems?
Like all of these dudes who enter
Like, if-
relationships with women who do corn, like
if you,
do you actually think
if they
that
work in
you
the industry,
can force her to change her lifestyle?
I mean,
like,
if
same
they
thing for
both
all
work in
of
the industry,
and do you
I-
actually think that after she leaves corn, that won't have permanent effects on her psyche that
Right.
still will ruin your relationship?
I mean, same thing for all the girls who are dating like overgrown man children, right? Like,
Yeah.
if he acts this way right now, do you think if you're just nice enough, he will change? Like, probably not. Everyone's not realistic with what they go into. I think women are more likely to enter relationships thinking like, oh, well, he'll grow up, or like it'll get better. I can change him. I can help him. But like men are exactly the same way, and they tend to seek out damaged women because they feel like, oh, if I am masculine, I mean, I think it's subconscious. I think that they think like, if I am enough of a man, I can help her and protect her, which great instinct, but be realistic.
okay, I was wrong. She actually was married.
okay.
Oh, no. Okay. Her husband is not the same ex that she's talking about. She got married to her now husband in 2021.
Yeah.
But before she got married, she wrote this Instagram caption talking about how she like prioritizes this above all. She said, never have I had a boyfriend who is proud of my job. I've had two, quote, normal boyfriends in my adult life. Normal being that they don't do corn. So you're admitting that you're abnormal. Both of which ended in an ultimatum, corn or them. I always chose corn.
Well, they're always
I've
gonna
struggled
choose
with
their
that
industry.
choice, though wondering if I've made the right decision.
I mean, like,
But we don't normalize sacrificing your career for marriage.
Yeah,
So I
like,
think that like
that's
yes,
a completely
it's
normal
even-
thing to do. It's just a weird industry.
Right, and even though like there are obviously more complicated implications when it's corn, I think generally there are so many women in particular who would not give up their influencer career if they knew it would ultimately lead them to a strong and healthy marriage.
Well, yeah, like
they wouldn't give up their, I don't know, high-powered executive lady career for the same reason.
Of any
I'm not
job, would they do
surprised.
that?
I'm not surprised that corn is any different. I just think it should be more obvious to all parties involved that
We
like,
as a society-
the man is not going to be happy.
I think there's
with this.
something unique about this though, like being in this industry for her, because it draws people who tend to have sexual trauma, and a sign of that is that you will revisit your trauma over and over again through your sexual experiences, and another form of like confronting your shame is also to mask it as pride.
Yeah.
So, you know, if she's saying I'm proud of my work and I'm always going to choose corn over men and blah blah blah, like
A lot of
it
women will
seems
choose their
more
career
like,
over men all the time anyways. No
I
matter
know, but
what
I'm
the-
saying that
whatever-
there's a
what the
unique.
job.
I'm saying that there's a unique aspect to this, being that she is a corn star, because of the tendency of women in corn to have like experienced sexual trauma beforehand, which draws them to that industry because a lot of these women are using it to revisit their trauma over and over again to try to make sense of it, which obviously never works.
I think that's a part of it, but I do think it's similar to being addicted to getting likes on Instagram or social, right? Their sense of identity is wrapped up in this industry, and therefore they can't leave it behind, even if theoretically you could have something better if you let it go. I think for her, part of it is like she would become anonymous in some ways. If she were to say, like, I'm going to give up this career, I mean, who knows? Maybe she starts a podcast, maybe she does whatever. If she really wants to be public facing, there are other ways to do it. She doesn't have to be in
Most
porn.
of these women can, like, they can start their own podcast. They can do plenty
do
of
all
things.
kinds
other
of
than,
things.
But look,
I'm sure she
we're in
has,
a
I just don't
society
keep
now
up.
where there is no aspect of society that tells women that it's a good idea to give up your job for a guy anyways. So, like yes, it is unique to the situation because of what's going on with them with whatever trauma they might have gone through. But it's not like this would be very different if some dude asked his girlfriend to leave her mid-level, executive job. She would say, I love my career. Like, I want my career.
But
Like,
a guy
that's-
wouldn't have even brought it up as an ultimatum like that
I mean, what if he
if
did,
it were
though?
a normal
But
job.
What if
he
you
did?
were like, you're working crazy hours, I want to start a family, I feel like we don't get to spend time together, I make enough money to support us, you have to commute on the crazy train that's dangerous. What if you have all sorts
she
of...
is on a train, I'm sure.
What if she has all sorts of great explanations as to why, like, her going to this job that is maybe hurting the relationship, that they don't need financially, you know, and
Those
she
are all
says
like,
no.
he's listing circumstantial, in this hypothetical, he's listing circumstantial things about her job. Like, your commute and you don't have enough time with me and we want to like prioritize family and stuff. Those are all circumstantial things surrounding her job. It's not like something about the job itself that
What
he's
if he's like,
pointing
you
out.
work for an
when
oil
he's saying
executive and I
you
don't
choose
like it.
corn
Yeah.
or me,
You work
he's
in a
saying
male-dominated industry, so
choose-
that you're never around. You're around men all the time who hit on you constantly. It makes me uncomfortable. And she's like, "Nope, I love my job. I love
even
working for
that
this company. I won't
it's
change
still
companies."
circumstantial because like it's not her job. Her like when in reality Riley Reid's job is simulating intimacy
But he knew
on
that the
camera.
whole
What if she
time.
went behind the? What if she became just a director? Would he have a problem?
Yeah,
with
would
her
he have a
being
problem
like,
with that?
Would he have a problem? He's like, okay, you're not going to be in front of the camera anymore.
I
but
have
you are
no
gonna
idea what
direct,
kind
yeah.
of mental gymnastics this
Yeah.
guy is willing to do, but clearly a lot if he, you
Yeah.
know, stayed in this relationship this long while having a serious problem with what she does for a living.
I think he's just not being. He probably wasn't honest with her from the beginning, and I do think it probably has to do with a like, I can save or change this person instinct, which a lot of people have, and I don't want to, say that that's the. It's not the end of the world to feel that way. You just have to be realistic without it. If he never said, "Hey, it actually makes me uncomfortable that you do porn, and eventually I'm going to ask you to leave," if we were to get more serious or we were to do whatever, then he came into this not being honest with himself. And if she knew that it made him uncomfortable and expected that to change, then she's also being unrealistic.
they're both kind of deluding themselves, and that's why the relationship didn't work.
It's I mean,
But
it's
Mia
all-
Khalifa said, like, I got into this relationship with this guy, got married, and then later on he said that the fact that I did corn in the past made him uncomfortable. Like, you can't predict that. And that's why, like, the permanent consequences of this line of work need to be like young women who think that this is a viable option. They need to be aware that like, even if you stop, you can't just erase your past and act like it never happened.
But that's why the industry is so dangerous, because this girl is saying, I would choose this career, I would choose this industry over and over again.
And society keeps
Because
telling them that's fine and that there will be no repercussions
there'll be no
whatsoever.
repercussions, but there are repercussions. We're not honest about it. And then at the end of the day, who do they have to turn to? The industry. It keeps them locked in. It's like someone having blackmail on you, except it's public, and that makes it worse.
The lack of honesty about the repercussions later. Like, as somebody who's like...
It's intentional. It's totally intentional.
Who's main, like, from society at every level, right? Like, corporations, every way in which these things are promoted to the public. It's like...
Especially the MLM structure of OF. And the way that you can use a referral to make money off of like smaller creators under you, as if it's like just like I don't know, Mary Kay. Like that's like why the dishonesty has crept in part.
It's like, to me, as somebody who is like freedom focused first, right? Like, they have the right to do it, but it does suck that society on every level isn't giving these people like the clue in, like, that for
I
a
think
lot of
we've
us
shown that they are not equipped to handle the freedom that they've been given. That's my take.
Not about whether they're equipped to, it's that they're right to, but that's just means that there are people that will be sacrificed, unfortunately, to the industry that, you know,
that didn't need to happen, though.
It's
like, there were ways to prevent that.
If freedom is in place, I don't know if there, well, what would be the ways to prevent it?
To not give them the freedom to do it legally.
That's
what do you mean?
I mean, that could mean all sorts of things, but
what do you mean when you say it?
You know, if this type of content were not legally hosted on the internet, just like, you know, CP or, you know, other types of corn, like, then this wouldn't have happened, and there would actually be I mean, obviously it's unquantifiable, because you'll never know the amount of people who didn't end up doing OF, right?
Yeah.
But you know, there is a way to prevent this stuff. It's just we're all acting impotent, like we can't do anything about it.
The internet is
it's in the name of freedom.
The internet is the latest iteration, right? Like, there was porn on DVDs and VHSs, and there was Playboy magazine. It was always a way for people to find it. There were, you know, peep shows. There were like strip clubs have always been around with different levels of nudity. So this has been going on for a long time. It's more, the industry evolves with the availability of the content. But if we cut porn from the internet, there would be another version of it, right? And so at that point, like, the question to me seems like it's how
the more difficult it is for people to access and also make this content, the better.
But then if it's
That's
like you're not making content and your girlfriend dances in a strip club, I mean,
like,
How I Met Your Mother had this storyline, right?
I never made a claim like, if you make something illegal, it'll never happen again. Like, I don't think that. It'd be naive to think that.
My question is, like, what are ways to make women wake up to the fact that this is a long-term consequence, that there are dangers to this industry, no matter how it's
If we're being
glorified.
realistic, we need to figure out the ways to do that other than legislation, because the legislation is like kind of out of our hands for the moment.
Right, and like you're saying, like, we can make it illegal to stop putting it on the internet, but then maybe that'll just drive people to go in person, and maybe we'll just drive, I mean, like, there is no way to stop.
Honestly, it would be better if people went to strip clubs than subscribed to OnlyFans, because at least then you have to actually take a risk and, you know, kind of feel bad about yourself for physically entering with your face showing, with your ID in your pocket, with your money in your pocket, actually, like, you know, walking the walk of like what you want to do. Like, that honestly would be a better outcome than someone like subscribing to a bunch of OnlyFans.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think just generally though, there are people who will never feel ashamed of going to. I know people who like
such
are
a
happy about it. I know people who have corporate jobs who have told me that they would ideally become a stripper. I think that we need to find a reason that we're.
That says something horrible about working in the corporate world.
I think that we need to find a way to reach people who, for whatever reason, seek their identity through being recognized as a sexual being. And I think that is where we fall all the time, because we're so afraid. I mean, I'm not afraid of it, but I think so many people are afraid of seeming too puritanical about our views on sex.
All All right, let's go to super chats.
James Orenthal Wen said, my late grandmother used to dislike Sally Field for saying beep. I can't say that. Back in the day, I now hate Sally Field for being woke. By the way, we're also Californians.
Okay. I can't follow the super chats now because I'm like afraid to touch anything on the screen, so I'm just going to leave everything be. I will leave everything
The
be.
screen is lava. Usually Matt said, why do you people hate Hollywood for simply existing? We don't hate it for existing. We hate it for being cringy and woke and imposing their values on the rest of society.
I don't hate it. That's a strong word. But I think we should point out that it's a monopoly, and therefore it's an ideological monopoly.
Somebody said a comment the other day, like on our video about the criticism of The Little Mermaid, like, you know, why be critical? Why not just support it? And I said, I mean, that's a very weird way of thinking.
What a strange question.
Like, if for anything, for me, I like the idea of being critical of something and then being impressed with the outcome. Like,
critical should be the default. Supporting something shouldn't be your default reaction.
there's plenty of stuff, and as somebody who, like, we watch a lot of movies, and I end up liking most of the movies we watch, but that doesn't mean I can't be critical of the actors or how they go about things, like talking about how Hollywood can affect legislation. If I'm not allowed to be critical of that, I don't know what the point is of doing something like this. And I don't know why anyone would want to live in a world where a bunch of rich elitist douche canoes get to make all the money, set all of the moral precedent, call you a bad person, and then expect you to not be critical of them in any way, shape, or form just because they are who they are. No, like, and trust me, I have that problem. Like, as somebody who's not a hypercritical person, I have to reach some days to, like, because I'm a live and let live person. I'm like, look, this is stupid. I don't care about a lot of what these celebrities have to say, but it's also naive to think that there isn't impact here, that there isn't societal impact. Like Fran Drescher said, if they want to, you know, affect your society by removing plastic bottles, it's naive to think that they can't do that with other aspects of society. So at least forewarned is forearmed, right? Like, at least know what's going on.
Potatoes for Seamus, I believe, sent 2 test super chats.
Thank you.
In the middle of our crisis.
Support from the crowd.
Yep.
Andrew Jacobs said Damian Lewis is returning to Billions. Axe is back.
Yeah, his wife died. Damian Lewis's wife died in 2021, so he didn't, you know, he left the show for a while, and he's coming back. I think he's in like half of the next season's episode. So I stopped watching Billions after, I mean, I think I stopped watching before he left, but that first season of Billions is very, very good. Damian Lewis is a great actor.
Sanity Claus said, whatever you have tied to the system when a super chat comes through is causing the lag spikes.
I think we found that it was at least more than that. I think
It's still lagging, though.
it's still lagging, but I don't know. It is what it is. We'll have to
figure it out before tomorrow's show.
Yeah.
Hydronico said, my first super chat, you guys are doing great, even though it's cutting in and out like crazy for me.
Sorry about that,
Well,
man.
thank you.
We'll hopefully have it all figured out by tomorrow. I think it's an internet problem. I don't know if it's necessarily connected to the automation or anything.
Yeah,
but,
seems like it.
I was
The
told
internet
that-
has been wonky today.
Yeah.
Johnny Beck sent us a thumbs up. Thank you.
you.
X said, it's bad. Screen share, task manager, then read chat.
Well, we've been clean for about 20 minutes here, knock on wood.
Well,
so
okay.
It seems like it's been going okay.
Disco Jensen said, a group of relatives banded together is a family. A group of families banded together is a community. And a group of communities banded together is a society. They are all breaking down because of propaganda in the media.
Think so?
I mean, there's more to it than that, but yeah.
It's interesting because so much of what we watch now is so algorithmically, like, what your world is so fundamentally different from what your friend's world is, based because so much of your life takes place on your phone now, that, like, your world, we take for granted the fact that back in the day everyone might have gone to work at different jobs, but you came home and watched the same 3 or 4 stations for news, and you were united by lies in many ways. And now you're united by either lies or various truths that run contrary to one another, because the story is always more complicated than it's presented to you. So the world we live in now is very much disconnected, I think, in a lot of ways, not just because of media propaganda, but the sheer amount of content that you get. There's no shared truth anymore with anyone.
Yeah, I was saying earlier that I think Twitter is making people like more argumentative in their personalities.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I don't even know if that's true. I feel like actually a lot of conflict averse people are just sublimating their desire to have confrontation and conflict into this app.
Well, I mean, also, like, think about it. Like, a lot of the arguments that you get in, there's two things here. One, a lot of the arguments people get into have to do with tone of voice, and it would never happen in the real world. Like, it wouldn't be an argument that would happen in the real world.
Like, I literally saw people arguing about cheese earlier.
And
like,
secondly, it's in the real world, a lot of times that same conversation could happen in a completely, like, genteel manner. Right? That could be a completely benign conversation that turns negative based on your how you're predisposed to think that people are being automatically argumentative with you online. So people are always on the defensive. And that leads to people also, you disassociate. You're looking at the avatar of a person and you're not actually talking to them. And it's a lot easier to be mean to someone when you're just looking at a photo of a person and you're not being forced to recognize the humanity that you have to see when you see them in a room. And also people are just like online, people make it about semantics and they make it about the words chosen and less about the actual overall discussion.
I think people go to Twitter or social media to fight.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Regatan said, new DLC for Elden Ring announced. Guess who's happy?
I can imagine.
I think I can guess.
I can guess.
Rascal King said, 10 days until the Rascal King returns to the contiguous 48. Pew pews and birthday cake incoming.
A red, white, and blue birthday cake in the return to the contiguous 48.
Christopher Harris said, facts with Mary. If more young women knew the consequences... Maybe he meant W, I don't know. Knew the consequences of doing corn, even if you stop, needs to be said more.
What's funny about it is it's kind of the same argument that people used to have when we would talk about like anything you put on the internet is forever. And our generation, at least my generation, even grew up with that. Like you were told, like this was more in the context of like jobs, right? Like everything you post on Facebook, you know, your employer could possibly see. And it's like our generation just like didn't care, like eventually just stopped caring. Like they never
There's gonna
cared.
be such a volume of
Yeah.
content to expose people with that like you'll reach a saturation point that you can't care anymore.
And I think a lot of people, what they opted for is to just be, is a lot of people just tried to not stand out. Like if I'm not important enough, it won't matter if what my takes are because no one's going to be looking to stick it to me.
I think the internet, people didn't know what they were doing at first, and then there was a generation of people who were told, hey, the internet's forever, be careful what you post, do whatever. And that got countered against, well, the internet knows everything about you anyway, right?
Yeah.
And so with women's issues, so often, especially when it's like, hey, don't text nude pictures of yourself to someone. Stuff that seems super basic, you come up against the pressure of, well, everyone's doing it. It's normal. It's actually just like a modern way to operate. Yeah. And the same thing with attitudes towards strip clubs. I mean, I can't tell you how many girls I know who are like, it's empowering to go to a strip club. It's cool to see that. Where you want to be like, I think you are wrong. I think that you are fundamentally lying to yourself to seem like you are enlightened and brave in a way that other people aren't.
Media's been doing that to them for 25 years.
Other women do it to them.
But I'm saying but where did they get it from? Where did that notion come to women?
Are they living vicariously through the strippers who they, for some reason, believe to be living the dream?
It's a specific part of fourth wave feminism, like sexual liberation.
Yeah. But I'm saying but that was pushed through media in colleges.
Yeah,
that is now
academia.
Law to the average young girl who's a feminist, like almost by default in this country. Yeah. Like even if they don't identify as feminists, they hold some feminist beliefs just because that's how they're raised here. And you just can't escape any of it.
The majority of all women in every age group identifies as a feminist. That means that girls who are being raised today, their cousins, their sisters are more likely to be feminists. Their moms, their grandmothers, their great-grandmothers. I mean, it's everywhere.
Yep.
Bert Feg said, corn is so available now, sex more meaningless. I was raised in the 80s with an illegal satellite dish. I know, intimacy difficult.
The scrambler with the screen and the wavy lines.
I don't know anything about this. I'm like in the post-cable generation. Mark Reyes said, what if you had to use your credit card to access corn sites? It makes it so there's no need for an online ID and it makes it harder for kids to get access. That's an interesting idea.
Oh, so the idea is that they have to use the credit card to just even like it doesn't even get charged. They just use it as like a verification of idea. Then the
But
kid
that would be
just
such
use,
an easy way for scam sites to.
and the kids would just
And for people to, like credit card companies to be like, we should send more of these to teenagers.
Also, has
and
Visa
get them into debt
MasterCard
early.
not stopped working with PH?
one
I
of them
thought I
did,
heard
Some of them have
that
but
news.
and it was
And
like
it was in response to.
It just
like,
means someone who really wants it will switch to a different credit card provider that will allow them to access the site.
Right.
And it also means, like I said, was saying that credit card offers will be like, we should target 18-year-olds who are more likely to go into credit card debt and then be beholden to us anyways, because they know if they have a credit card, they can get access to the site.
like,
Everything
how
is a
many-
double-edged sword.
How many kids buy stuff like loot boxes and video game stuff with their parents' credit cards all the
But
time?
I think it'd be harder if you're like, your mom was like, hey, this is a charge for Angry
No,
Birds.
but
You
if the
bought
point
whatever,
is-
versus like Pornhub.
But the point is like they're like is the idea that like they're not getting charged. It's just a barrier for entry, so no charge goes on the card. It's just verifying that it is a real card that could only have been issued
But then
to an
if
adult.
no charge is going on, like you could steal your mom's credit card, use it to gain access. She would never know that you did that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's saying if the idea here is that like people get it for free, and if we're like even if for free, the goal is to keep it out of the hands of anyone under the age of 18. So you at least have to use a card, like kind of like a hotel, like you have to put
You'd
a
have
card
to-
down for deposit.
You have to incentivize the company to do that,
Yeah.
right? Like they have if they offer to if they offer it to someone for free, they're luring in viewers. That's all they want. And so really you have to find a way to make it desirable to the producer to make it restricted.
The thing is, all of these people in that industry are incentivized to make it as easy as possible for children to watch it. Like, I believe we're at a point now in this conversation where if there were a button that just means like magically no one who is a child will ever see corn again, they wouldn't push the button.
No, they wouldn't push it. 'Cause
Absolutely not.
More viewers earlier and more frequently. It's
Yeah.
better for them.
The last of my kind sent $1 without a message. Thank you.
Thank you.
Usually Matt said Riley, Adam, and Lena made corn together.
I did.
Okay,
not
that
know
must be why he's just, being a yes man to whatever BS she's spewing on November.
I'm going to like gently scroll down. Let's see if anything bad.
Gently.
Yes, just see if
Are you
anything.
going to gently tap the like button?
I am going to. Yes, guys, gently tap the like button if you have not done so already. All right, we're almost at we're at the end there, guys, and I did scroll down and nothing happened. So, Hannah Claire, thank you so much for joining us on this turbulent episode today.
Yeah, thank you for having me
Turbulent.
here through your the internet connectivity problem.
Like we seem to have made it through. The super chats didn't seem to be causing the
What if
problems
You've
at
gotten
the
like
end.
50 more, but it's just like dead and it's
I
not
would
registering
I would
them.
like to get like we did like I was hoping to see if a second crisis party would screw everything up, but it doesn't look like that's.
I'm
gonna
pretty sure
happen.
we got like 5 or 6. The
Yeah,
crisis party made
we
it well.
got some like extra crisis parties today that weren't actually crisis parties. That's all right. All right, but thank you so much for joining us
Yeah,
today.
thanks for having
Let
me.
everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me personally on Instagram at hannahclaire.b, and you can find me on Twitter at hcbrimelo. You should 110% follow at TimCastNews on Twitter and Instagram. Got all of our journalists, Chris Bertman, who comes on this show, Cassandra Fairbanks, Shane Cashman, the whole group. You can see their work, and yeah, thanks for having me. Have a good day.
Perfect. Thank you, Mary. Where can they find you?
Once again, thanks for bearing with us, guys. If you want to find pictures of me, you can follow me on Instagram at Mary Archived, and you can also send me hate on Twitter. That is also Mary Archived. Guess
All right.
we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, like
Hope
I
it's
was
a smoother show.
I was wondering if I guess we'll figure it out tomorrow to see if the crisis party causes any problems or what's going on, but we're just gonna go with it. Guys, again, thank you for joining us today. If you have not already done so, hit the like button, subscribe to this channel. We will do our best to make sure that tomorrow is a far, far less tumultuous experience. If you'd like to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at Brett Dasovic. The show is here Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon Pacific. If you'd like to listen to the show rather than watch, we are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. And if you'd like to follow this show on social media, we are on Twitter at popculture_show, Facebook and TikTok at popculturecrisis, and on Instagram at popculturecrisispod. We will be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll see you then, guys.
Bye.
Bye.